Live from High Point, North Carolina, the town better known as Little Chicago, it's time for the Friday Night Gamble! Featuring Matt Walsh and his co-host, the pride of all the former Friday Night Gamble co-hosts that came before him, Terrell Brown! Our musical guest tonight is John Howie Jr. Get ready for an hour of fun conversation, music, and mayhem. I'm Nadine Stutz, and I'll be your MC this evening. Pop yourself a Butch Light and let's roll the dice as we welcome the Statesville troubadour himself, Matt Walsh.
Kick your feet up. Stay here a while. Pay no mind that the world's on fire. Because we're going to have one of them real good times tonight. Somebody say hi to Mighty. Hi to Mighty.
Hi, Mighty.
Y'all, welcome back to the Friday Night Gamble, and what a night it's going to be. We got Terrell Brown in the house. First time, I think, co-host. No, second time co-hosting, right? Second or third. I can't either. All I know is Ricky Dickerman is glued to a, I think, a Betty Ford one. He's.
We wish him health and happiness.
Bless his heart.
Nadine, how have you been doing?
I'm great, Matt. I'm great. I'm glad it's Friday. Looking forward to the weekend.
I've got to ask you about something here in just a minute. If you got,
are you gonna put me
details.
on the spot?
Well, I just want to know if you got any details on something, folks. Got to welcome our guest tonight, John Howie Jr.
Thanks for having
me. I'm excited about it.
Hello. Also, before we get started, folks, we got to give a little shout out to our sponsors. And that's Todd Doc Sigmeyer, Rocky Mountain Slides up in Colorado. He makes these fine slides, tone bars, all kinds of nice little trinkets and stuff. Also, Butch Light, melatonin, clover, dandelion, IPA, whatever he puts in the stuff. I don't know. It's up to about 40%.
They're strong.
They're strong. So speaking of what I was talking about, I'll just go ahead and cut to the chase. I heard Buddy got locked up. Have you heard about this, Terrell?
I heard a little bit.
John,
about
you
damn shame. I'm out of the loop here.
Yeah, Luke. So what's going on? What happened?
I dropped Chet off at the bank at about 3:30, and he told me he was going to call me when he was done, and I hadn't heard from him. I assume he Ubered out of there, or somebody took him, or he might still be up there. I don't know. I don't know the details. You
know anything?
His daddy's getting money. I know that.
Nobody seems to know anything about this.
I don't know anything. I know his daddy's trying to get a large sum of cash, and that's all I know.
Well, whatever it was a matter of time knowing Buddy. So
exactly.
Well, it was just a matter of time. And I've noticed he hasn't had a social media presence. So I'm assuming.
I don't have any details, Matt.
I'm assuming this thing's real. I mean, is he going to do real time? That's word. The word on the street is he's going to be doing real time.
Buddy is my stepson, and I am.
Well, he's also your ex-husband.
And my ex-husband. So. And I am not going to get into it. I don't know any details. Well, you're trying to set me up to be on the outs with Chet. I'm not getting into it. I don't have the details, man.
It's Friday the 13th. Everybody's got enough problems.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's right.
Man, what am I doing here?
Just think Ricky was here. Just think how bad it'd be.
Dip your toe in that.
Why am I not at home?
Yeah, why are you
under the covers?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, I'm not trying to make anything worse. The word on the street is.
Well, then don't.
He's doing serious time. He's doing serious time, and I mean, if he does, he does. If Ricky were here, maybe we'd get some answers. I've tried to call Ricky all week, but like I said, he's glued up at the Betty Ford clinic.
And we wish him health and happiness.
We do. He's trying to figure out the liquor still that is his life. So trying to get things back together.
Multiple fluid situations.
Multiple fluids. Steve Earle can tell you. I tell you, if anybody can. Terrell, how you been doing?
I've been doing okay.
What's going on new with you?
Oh man, not much. Just work, traveling, and
Traveling?
Yeah,
Where you been going?
Yeah, Florida and Alabama.
Oh,
been
just
around.
Nowhere.
Yeah,
Nowhere.
places.
Just Florida.
Yeah.
Goes to
Beach down
Florida.
the Gulf. First time on a Gulf beach.
Really?
Down in Florida back in July. Yeah.
Cool, man.
With family, had a impromptu family reunion down there.
So you got family? So you got family in Florida?
Up Florida, Georgia, Alabama.
Where are you from originally?
I'm from here.
You're from
original.
North Carolina.
Yeah, but my
Okay.
family are largely from Alabama and Georgia. So a lot of folk down here in the deeper south.
What do you like better, Alabama or Florida? Georgia.
Florida.
I'm all of them.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
that's Florida.
It's yeah. Alabama's got some issues, but
Yeah.
I still love my family.
You didn't by chance see Richie Cash down there in Florida?
I
did
did
you?
not.
You know he's missing too. Nobody knows where Richie is. As you can see, the high roller stand sits over there and it's lit up.
That man
still.
moves a mile a minute. So.
We hope we light it up every week, hoping that he'll come back. You know, because the thing is, you light up the stand, and it's almost like it'll Nadine, if you want to undo your camera up there, you can. Let's see here. See, sometimes you have to do this.
You don't pay me enough to do
I
that.
think that'll do it. Yeah, there it is. There it is. That's sweet. And there you see,
That's where it used
it's
to happen.
That podium's looking real lonely.
yeah,
right
it's
now.
like
It
like
is,
attracting a lion to meat. You know, you leave the podium lit up in the hopes that it'll summons him. You know.
Well,
I'm missing that hair too. So.
So I wouldn't be surprised if one day we're sitting up here and we're talking and he just appears, just poof, you know, like that, and he's here. John Howie Jr., how you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I'm glad
Thank
to
you
be
for
here
making the
with,
drive
with,
from
with y'all.
Wade County, I guess.
I live in Hillsborough.
You live in Hillsborough.
Hillsborough.
Okay.
About an hour with the
Yeah.
traffic.
Yep,
People
yeah.
drive crazy at this
on
time.
Friday
Oh, my
evening,
God.
coming
People-
that way.
But like this time of day,
Yes,
people
it's
drive-
insane. You know,
People
it's
drive
just not-
crazy, and they drive aggressively, too.
Very, very aggressive.
You know, it's like,
man,
man, you know, the road is just no place for aggression. You know?
I'm a pacifist, so like I just
I'm a
kinda
road- I'm a
scared.
road
Like I'm just
pacifist.
kind of like laying back, hoping nobody.
A lot of people don't realize they're driving missiles
Yes.
down the
exactly.
highway at
Yeah,
high
like-
speed,
That's
so.
so true.
And especially truckers. 'Cause
Yeah.
they're driving like nuclear weapons.
Big chrome death
Basically,
machines.
Hey, we're gonna call cars missiles. they're driving the big boys. So anyway, John, you've been around for doing this for probably maybe a little longer than I have,
Long
I
time.
guess.
Yeah, a long time.
And you've gone through. I guess I would classify you not exactly country as a country artist. I think you got a lot of more influence in your music these days. But I guess my point, what I'm getting at is, you've gone from being is it okay to say punk rocker
Oh yeah.
back in the '80s,
Oh, okay.
right? Is that
All
time
right.
span
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It's all right.
To going up and playing traditional country and,
Yep.
and doing things like you were telling me when I said Mookie told you hello. You know, you guys said you guys had Buck Owens. Were involved with Buck Owens.
It's got to be 15 years ago. Got to be.
Yeah.
Gotta be. Yeah.
And I know you've gotten to share the stage and bills with some of your heroes
Absolutely.
in the country music world.
Hmm.
And you also play drums.
I do. Yeah. That was the first instrument I played. I mean, when I was 17, I played it the first time in a club when I was 17, and I was playing drums. And it was a band, a long way from what I do now. It was a band that kind of sounded like, Susie and the Banshees, or
Yeah.
Sisters of Mercy,
Oh,
or
wow.
like a band like that, kind of
Yeah.
like that, kind of dark, depressing. But I was just happy to have something to do.
Yeah.
Because I hated school.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was a kind of a freak, and I went to a school.
How so? Were you just bored? Or?
No, what happened was, I'm going to make this as quick as I can. My grandmother, who is also from Alabama,
Okay.
but she was in Charlotte when I was growing up. She came into a bunch of money. She went to work for this company that just got huge, and when she retired, they gave her this great pension plan. So she paid for me to go to a private school in Raleigh. So it was just not my people.
Yeah, right.
Very kind of conservative, very straight. You know, and I was living out in the woods.
There wasn't no smoking in the boys' room.
There was nothing like that, and
Not without an ass whooping to follow.
well, yeah, and I don't know, but it was like the bad, like I don't mean conservative, like I mean the bad conservative, like, you know, like not nice. And I was into, you know, when I was 13, 14, I got into the Sex Pistols and the Damned and the Ramones and the Jam and all that kind of stuff. You know, and it spoke to me for whatever reason, and that was it. It kind of set me free, you know, because I was living in this world where I just felt like I'm just a complete freak, like there's no one else like me. And then you hear, though I don't agree with him now, at the time, you know, Johnny Rotten, you know, he's a pro-individual, anti-fascist, you know, he's a sharp guy.
Well, I have to think, you know,
kind of working class.
If you're describing growing up in kind of a bland world like that, it's probably the same thing that happened to teenagers, and you know, not the same way, but in a way, yes, the same kind of aesthetic as that. You know, when people heard rock and roll back in the 50s for the first time, they've been living in this plastic world, and we're going, man, there's got to be something else, and
counterculture,
and then rock and roll comes out, and you know. And which only lasted like 2 years.
Boom, yeah. It was,
you know, when it was over. You know, that's people think that rock and roll was like, you know, had its
lasted 20 years.
Had been in the 50s. It was only around for like 2 years, and then like everybody died. And
Elvis went in the army.
People went
Chuck
to
Berry
prison.
went to jail. Yeah. Eddie Cochran died.
Yeah, so I mean, it was.
It's true. That's a good point.
Then you had the bubblegum craze after that. You know, it was the Candyman can.
So yeah, and I love all that like 60s, like the Kinks and the Who.
Sure, man.
You know, because that's kind of aggressive. You know what I mean? It's kind of like it's almost kind of punky.
So the punk rock stuff's kind of was that your first exposure to music? Or?
Yeah, pretty much.
Good,
well, my mom. This is really weird. Is from Charlotte via Alabama and all that. And you would not think this, but my mother was an improvisational jazz piano player, so she listened to Oscar Peterson, Bill Evans. She took me to see Sarah Vaughan in a supper club when I was 16 years old in Washington D.C. Yeah,
you're kidding me?
No, totally serious.
Oh my god!
So like I had that.
That's fantastic.
And she was a musician who played out, so I kind of got to see what that was like, and you know, be around musicians. And my dad listened to, you know, mostly in the 70s, that kind of Waylon and Willie outlaw. That was him. That was his deal. You know? And the Johnny Cash records of that time. But he also liked, you know, he was born in Tupelo, so he had like the Robert Johnson, King of the Delta Blues, and he had Howlin' Wolf moaning in the moonlight.
Oh yeah, man.
So he was very open.
Right.
You know, you were not going to put him in a box.
Right.
You know, which is sort of like that outlaw country thing of that era. You know, like Waylon Jennings. That's raw and bluesy. Sure. You know, it's so.
And kind of a big middle finger to Nashville.
Totally. So I kind of grew up around all that. And
good time.
And then, but you know, when you're a teenager, like you know, your parents' music, it's just not gonna work.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Right.
Like I didn't want to hear, you know, Bill Evans, and I didn't want to hear Waylon Jennings or any of that stuff. So then that's when I got into like the Pistols and the Ramones, and me and my friends all of a sudden had this music that, you know, our parents didn't listen to.
Yeah, that was yours.
Yeah, and we could be pissed off and do that.
So what did you do for a while? I mean, you played in a band at 17.
Yeah, I was playing drums, and then when I was 19, I dropped out of college. I was working at the tax department.
Oh boy.
And just doing grunt work, like you know, I was not doing anything, to be honest with you. And what I realized was I'd saved some money up, and I'd been in college recently enough to be eligible for a work exchange program overseas. Oh. Right? So my dad and I talked about it, and he was like, you know, you should get out of, like, you've been in North Carolina your entire life. You know. Go, man, you're like 19 years old. Go, you know. Right. And so they gave you a work visa. So I went over there, man, and spent the last of my money on that ticket. Got over there and got a job through this work exchange program, just kind of in a you know, signing in for packages and stuff. But I hooked up with a punk band, okay, that was about to tour Europe, playing drums with them. So it wasn't a whole lot of money. I mean, we ate most of the time, but I got to see, Italy, Spain, France, Germany, Poland,
Yeah.
and all this stuff that I otherwise wouldn't have gotten to see.
Oh,
So
that's great.
those guys, the main guy in particular, when we weren't playing shows, he brought an acoustic guitar, right? And we'd sit around, do Johnny Cash and Hank Williams, and I was like, dude, I grew up hearing all that music, and I love it too, but I'd never heard anyone that I thought of as a peer or a contemporary say they like that music.
Right.
You understand what I'm
right.
saying?
Oh, yeah,
So,
sure.
and at that age, it's pretty important to have somebody that you consider in your little world,
Yeah, sure.
like have those kind of tastes, and it makes it okay. So when I got back, man, from England, I was 20 years old, and it was just kind of on. I started playing drums in a band called Finger, who were kind of like the Replacements or something. But at that point, I had my dad's records that I could listen to and stuff like that. And so I got really into, all those George Jones, Buck Owens, all that stuff. And I ended up meeting people who went deep with that and had record collections of that stuff. And so by the time I was 25, 26, I just thought, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And that kind of coincided with this alt country quote unquote thing that was happening in Raleigh with bands like Whiskey Town, Ryan Adams and stuff like that. But that was, to be honest with you, purely coincidental, because to those guys it was sort of the stepping stone, to something, to roots rock or whatever. To me, it was like I finally figured out what it is I want to do.
Yeah. Right.
And I've been doing it ever since. Been playing kind of honky tonk for, Jesus, man, was that 26 years, something like that?
We'll play some home.
A long time. I got this one called "Who Needs the Neon."
All
I'll
right.
do real quick if that's all right. Well, here you come, and you tell me that we're through again, and this time you really mean it. I can tell your heart is lost. So if we're done, what's old could become new again. I guess it will find out around 9 o'clock. Who needs the neon, and who needs the crowd? Who needs the music from the jukebox when it's turned up too loud? Who needs the night alive to forget about you? Who needs the neon? Well, darling, I do. It's true. It's funny how I find myself falling so far, turning to a style of living that I told myself was wrong. So if we're done, better find myself another bar. I gone from the stay at home to stay out all night long. Who needs the neon, and who needs the crowd? Who needs the music from the jukebox when it's turned up too loud? Who needs the night alive to forget about you? Who needs the neon? Well, darling, I do. Who needs the neon? Now, darling, I do.
Is that the shit that got my buddy locked up? The neon? Is that what got him locked up? Nate didn't tell me. It's the truth.
I don't
was it
know
Nate?
anything
Was it the
about
neon?
it.
Tell me.
I don't
It
know
sounds a
anything
lot
about
like
it.
some shit that
I
could
have not
happen.
seen Buddy. I have only seen his
Don't
daddy.
it? It does, don't it? Trail, what you got for my main man? Over
Oh, well, actually, I was curious. So you first started playing music by playing drums.
Mm-hmm.
So who or what got you started playing guitar?
You know, I was writing songs for other bands when I was in my early 20s, and honestly, I just got kind of tired of going, you know, well, you kind of go, you know what I mean, like trying to hum something, you know. So I figured I would teach myself enough to be able to go, you know, play,
Hey guys, do this.
play a G,
Yeah.
Right.
play a C, and so that's kind of what I did. My dad had a nylon string guitar. He was sort of a frustrated guitarist, and I took that. I had moved to Chapel Hill by this point, so I took it over there and just kind of taught myself that, and eventually got to the point where, yeah, I was. And the other thing that kind of led me in this whole direction was when I got the guitar, you know, got the chords down and all that. As soon as I started writing songs, I just thought, well, just write a song without worrying about what band it's going to go to, because I played like power pop and punk and some jazz. And as soon as I did that, it just came out, you know, like very country sounding.
Yeah.
You know what
Which is
I mean?
all right.
So
Which is all
if
right.
that's naturally
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
happening, roll with it.
Yeah.
you
That's
know.
what it was.
And so do you miss playing? So 26 years you've been playing largely country, you know, or some order of that.
Yeah.
What about do you miss playing the punk, or do you still listen to that?
Oh, I still listen to it a
Yeah,
lot.
good,
Yeah. I was thinking about, on the way here, I just kind of let my Spotify liked songs go, and it was the Jam, the Who,
Ooh, yeah, man.
Irma Thomas,
Magic Bus.
James Carr.
I mean, really, that song "Magic Bus" is about as punk rock as it gets.
Totally,
man.
and Substitute and all that with those big. I like the
They're
way
going
he,
with a 12-string
Yeah.
too.
Which is awesome.
and you know, what a weird band, because like the bass does most of the lead,
Yeah.
the bass and drums, which are
Yeah.
supposed to be kind of holding
Yeah.
it down.
Yeah.
Those are like the
Take
lead
more of a
instruments in that
forefront.
band.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
totally.
You remember Austin?
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
He
Yeah.
played like a lot like Keith Moon. You know, he played more like a lead instrument than he did a drummer.
Yeah.
You know? Terrell, I know why he picked up the guitar though.
What's that?
I know why he picked up
Why
the
is that?
guitar. Well, there's an old joke. It's like, you know why the band broke up, right?
What? Why?
Not the band per se, like, yeah, but you know, any band.
Yeah.
The drummer came in and said, "Hey guys, I wrote a song."
It was like that. It was like that. It was like that. No, I mean, it
Who is this
really.
guy?
Let's just be honest here.
Supposed to stay in
Yeah.
the back.
So you gotta, you know.
But I tried a few years ago. I played drums for about 3.5 years for a band that was like signed and in the music industry, and I did touring with them, and I tried to get back into it as a primary thing.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
that's when the last time we saw each other
Yeah,
was at the Buford
right.
Music Fest when
Exactly.
you were playing drums, and
Mhm.
yeah,
And, but after a few years, I realized.
which kind of threw me because I didn't know that you know, that was like we had met. I think maybe before then,
Mhm,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
in passing.
Yeah.
But I didn't know you as a guitar country guy. So when I saw him. And I first asked him to come on the show along, like I think it was a while
It's been a
back,
while
and you
back,
had you were moving or something, couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But you know, I said, man, you know, you said, you know, when I was introducing myself, you said, oh, we met before, and I just didn't realize that he was
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
both
So-
drumming and, you know, I didn't know him as John Howie, the country guy.
Yeah, totally,
You know,
totally.
with the guitar. So
So I tried to go back, and it just wasn't. I mean, it was fun. Like,
Yeah,
I had a really
sure.
good time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it was a good band and everything, but it just was like, this is not what I want. You know, if I could do it half the time, maybe, but this is a band that's touring a lot, and
Very demanding.
I know you've got a young son
And your
too.
heart is, really somewhere.
You got a young man.
that
you're
was a
raising.
lot of it.
So I know that's.
So he's 14 now.
Oh,
and
is he? I thought maybe he was older than that.
I've had him full time for 3 years, and you cannot. For one thing, honestly, like, even when I only had him half the time, when we go out for 2 or 3 weeks, I missed him. He's my son, and we're really tight, and now I have him all the time. So no, it's all good. So, thank you. So I couldn't do that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate that I've got a partner that he loves and who will hang out with them and stuff, so I could surely go out for a few days.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, so how's it work? Yeah, right.
But I don't, like, he's not gonna be 14
forever.
Yeah, like this is like the only time that's gonna happen. In a few years, he's gonna move out, and so like, and I'm not gonna get those chances.
Age. It's a highly impressionable age.
Yeah. So we hang out and watch horror movies and play basketball and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to miss that.
Is he into music at all?
So here's the thing, I set up my kit at my house for the first time a few months ago, and he listens to like lo-fi hip hop and like 70s R&B and stuff like that.
Cool.
When he was a kid, he liked like country and
what kind of R&B stuff
and the Monkees. Like the Spinners and stuff like that.
Okay, so going way back.
And kind of more like when I play like James Carr, Otis Redding.
Well, old school hip hop and that kind of stuff, kind of.
Totally, yeah,
yeah.
He likes all that stuff. And Barry White,
man,
he's into that. But I set the kid up.
Barry White.
And he came to me recently and asked me if I'd show him some stuff. I was like, yes, I absolutely will. So we're moving into that zone.
Have y'all played together?
I'm not pushing it. No, I'm not pushing it at all.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the smart thing to do. My son is the same way. He picked up harmonica when he was like 5 years old or whatever. And I never pushed it. It was just he kept doing it. But I was a stay-at-home dad too, so we ride around. He listened to everything that I listened to back then, which back then was nothing but a pure diet of blues stuff and rockabilly and stuff like that. And I never taught him anything. He just kind of figured it out on his own. And the only thing I've ever done is told him, if it's like, hey man, just don't play over people's vocals. Just little things that really don't have anything to do with playing, harmonic or anything. But I'm all about don't try to make your kid a musician.
How old is your son?
My son is he's almost 19 years old. But don't and you know what I'm talking about, because there are those people out there that try to make their kids musicians.
I've seen it.
And it seems like the more and more as time goes on, with the invention of things like YouTube, I mean, we had to like listen to records and try to figure this shit out.
Records and tapes.
Yeah, totally.
And it took me 3 years to figure out that I was doing Lightning Hopkins right. It's just something stupid or not stupid. It's something as detailed as he's tuned down to D standard.
Right.
It's just these things you couldn't go to YouTube and go.
Totally.
And I think it's so kids get that, and you get to see 12-year-old kids out here going do, and somebody's behind them pushing them, and it's just not how we
like
grew
with
up.
Sports or whatever.
It's so totally different. It's crazy to me.
And you'd look for a record, man, like punk rock.
Oh God.
Good God,
luck.
man! Like, you'd like
Good
drive
luck.
4 or 5 hours to find some 45, from 1978.
Good luck.
Because
I mean, the best you could hope for was like a record bar or one of those cheesy little things in TV Guide, Nadine. You remember? I know you ordered one of those. You had
Columbia
House.
House.
One of those Columbia House tape clubs. Tell me that you were.
13 cassettes for a penny.
You're damn
I
right.
remember that.
That's how I got Adam and the Ants
Oh,
and the English Beat.
But that was about the only way you could really
Billy Squire.
something like that. Is that they had an obscure, just and
Occasionally they'd have something weird like
it's
that.
crazy to even think back to that stuff. I mean, we were in the trenches.
We were on the weeds.
And then we'd smoke weed and make it worse, even more confusing. What's happening here? Play us another song, will you?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So when I was 16, and I had punk rock flowing through my veins, I ran away to California. Meat Puppets played.
I went and saw them.
Okay, so they
Blind Melon.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
and
crazy.
Boone when they first came out.
on the same bill.
Yeah.
Wow,
Wound Mill
Nice.
at the Boone University little amphitheater or Coliseum.
Okay. So this is 1985, and I was not supposed to go to California. I'd gotten a job at the Big Star grocery store, and I had one at Hardee's too. And I saved up enough money to get a bus ticket out there. And I went and told my dad, I'm going to go to California. And he was like, yeah, no.
Well, are you now?
John Jr., you are not going to do that.
Son, punk rock tapes were enough from Columbia House. What is going on?
So what had happened was back then there was a punk rock fanzine called Flipside.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I used to read that, and I started writing this girl who was 16 in there, and we developed this kind of remember pen pals?
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy, I feel so old. but
Yeah,
so,
right. We're going to age out.
so we developed this kind of relationship, and she lived in a town called Morgan Hill, which was near Gilroy and San Martin, at all Northern California.
Okay.
So I took the bus to San Francisco. I stayed out there for a month.
Wow, that's a long ride, brother.
3.5 days.
I've done it. I
Yeah.
did it. I went out to Kansas. And
So
did
you
the
know,
same
it's,
thing.
like,
Yeah,
it's insane.
horrible.
It's
absolutely
crazy. Like the
horrible.
people on the bus, man.
One
Like
of
I
the
thought I
worst.
was crazy. Like they're
Oh yeah, they're fucking
they're
crazy,
legitimately
John.
like
They're fucking
guys
crazy,
that tuck
John.
like dusty tuxedos and stuff like that. Like, man.
Listen, and I remember the worst I've ever felt in my life, one of the worst I've ever felt in my life, is like you try to run back. Did you ever do this? I tried to run back the back of the Greyhound bus. Because I did it twice like an idiot. I went out
Right.
and I came back to visit North Carolina on the bus, but I flew back out.
Okay.
But the worst I've ever felt, I think, is like you try to run and get to the back of the bus, because at the back it's like real wide and open. You can sleep and shit. I'll never forget like waking up and it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. There was like some light overhead, and I was just covered. I was sleeping in a leather jacket because it was wintertime, and I was just covered in drool.
Yeah, it's
Where I
terrible.
drooled all over myself
Wow.
in the back of a Greyhound bus. It was like the most awful shit.
It's terrible.
It's awful.
It
My
was,
shirt
it was a
wet.
bad experience.
It was awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
But I was, it was hormonally motivated and
So you went out to San Francisco.
and punk rock. Like that's what to me.
Yeah, that's what you did. That, I mean, you're young.
You weren't
young,
supposed to
you do
sit
anything
around
then,
and,
too, you know,
and,
that's
and
the
do the hippie thing. You were supposed to do it, man.
Yeah, right.
Listen
Yeah.
to Crass and bands like that who were like, go, go, go. So I went and got in a lot of trouble. Yeah, I got in a lot of trouble for
Not
that.
quite like that.
But goodness, I had a good time. And
Yeah,
then I
man.
brought the girl back, which is what they sent Chuck Berry to jail for.
Right, I was going to say, you really,
Violation
you really
of the
screwed
Mann
up there.
Act.
Yeah,
Yes,
that
that
was
was
bad.
absolutely.
So
But
you crossed state lines. And,
But thankfully, everybody kind of was understanding, and eventually she went back. And so the reason I'm saying all this is because we're because of Facebook now, we're friends again, and which is nice. It was my first love, and
that's crazy.
I
Your
started
first
trying to-
love, y'all
yeah.
are still friends on Facebook.
so
That's wild.
I started trying to write this song about that, and what it ended up being about was not that. It was about a woman I used to date, and when we were in California, kind of touring around. So you know how it is when you go to write a song. It's like it never ends up being what you think it's going to be.
Right.
You just kind of got to go with the flow.
Yeah.
So it's called In the Back of My Mind, which I stole that title from the Beach Boys.
Never try.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll do it real quick. Headed out to San Francisco Bay, and the further that you drive along ain't half as far as I drove you away. And the words you left don't count for much unless we're keeping score by one kind. They are ringing in my ear and in the back of my mind. Might have been the thoughts we tossed around, 'cause the way you talk, it seemed by now that I'd be walking on some solid ground. For And the pictures that I seen looks like you had yourself one hell of a time. And I guess that makes two of us in the back of my mind. I'm sure you'd say that's where you were back when we were together. And if I could not see that, I must be blind. You waited for a year or more to walk yourself right out that door. And I wonder why on earth you'd waste your time in the back of my mind. Wonder now if I'm still in your sights. In your game of shells, whistles, and bells, let 'em know you're leaving me tonight. They said 5 would get me 10. I never knew back then they meant the years that fly right on by, leaving your memory in the back of my mind. Leaving your memory in the back of my mind.
Greyhound bus coming in the
That's
station.
all
Right? That's
That was
good,
good.
man.
That was
Yes,
all
sir.
right.
Thank you.
You know,
It's
so
phenomenal.
you know, I'm sitting here thinking while you're playing that song, you know, I have to think that your answer to this question is probably going to go with a little bit of why you're going to name the people you're going to name, because they're probably similar to punk rockers. Who are your top 5 country musicians
Ooh.
you love? And I know that's a tough one. That's like asking me who are your top 5 country musicians you love. It's hard to pinpoint them, but
I would have to say Roger Miller,
yeah, man, that's one I wouldn't expect.
probably number one, because that's the guy. So the first music that I really remember hearing and loving, my mother took me to Robin Hood in the theater when it was brand new. So that's what, 74, I think. I was like 5
Wow.
years old. She tried to take me to preschool, okay, and I freaked out like a lot of kids do.
Yeah.
And my mom, in this display of compassion, said, okay, like, I'll tell you what, let's spend the day together, and then we'll try again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, as much as I love my mom, it's a little out of character. You know, she had things to do, right? But so she was very compassionate in that moment, and honestly, like, not to be too psychological or pop psychoanalyze myself, but when you're like filled with that kind of unconditional love from a parent, and then whatever they do with you is going to be is going to impact you.
Oh, it's gonna
Right?
be grand.
Because
yeah.
you're already feeling all this love. So she took me to see Robin Hood, and the first character that talks on screen is Roger Miller. And
Wow,
so
I
I
did
just
not know
was
that.
filled
Yeah.
with love for his voice and those songs. And
I did not know that.
yeah, so and my dad had, some album that had the hits like King of the Road and Shag a Lot.
Right, I was going to say, because, I went to Kmart one time with my grandmother, and I was trying to find cassette tapes, and I was kind of coming up on nothing,
Right.
And she said, oh, here's a Roger Miller, and why don't you get that? And I took it home, and let's do Wackadoo, all
Yeah.
the King. And I didn't know until recently, honestly, John, that he wrote some fucking really
Tearjerker songs.
deep songs.
Tear,
man.
tear.
Yeah.
Oh, we've been listening to a lot of
Yeah, we
rock.
have listened to
Yeah.
those lately.
Wicked $2 Pistols covered one of his songs on our first album. But so he would be number one
Right.
because I think he's like the total package. Like he can do any kind of song, and he even does like kind of jazz scat. Like what a weird dude! Like
Yeah.
it's almost like Ella Fitzgerald type stuff sometimes
Right.
where he's going and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
What song is that?
Very
That's
jazzy. He does.
That's
Well,
Wackadoo,
here
I
it's
think.
it's that one
Wackadoo,
too.
Yeah, he does it on that one.
after that, they're kind of, probably Ernest Tubb, because I feel like he kind of invented honky tonk.
Yeah. That's a good one.
I love Buck Owens because he took that and added, drums and this kind of raucous.
Rock and roll too.
Yes, yeah. A big
That
Chuck
was a
Berry
Baker-
fan.
That's what the Bakersfield sound really was.
You
in
can
my
hear
opinion.
that.
It
That's
Yeah.
right.
It just mixed
Yeah.
up rock. They made it so you could dance to it, so people could get drunk and go out
Not
and
necessarily
party.
to be poppy or anything, but
Right.
just to be more.
Because I guess around that time that the more only danceable country music you had was more like Bob Wills.
Yeah, the Western swing kind
Yeah,
of stuff.
which was-
sure.
yeah.
Which I love that stuff too.
Sure.
But there's something about that, that's sort of like the infusion of like Chuck Berry
Yeah.
into honky tonk. Like, well, that's just a brilliant idea.
great
I mean,
idea.
when the Beatles are covering you,
Yeah.
you're probably
And Buck
doing
Owens, what a
something
story
right.
that is. And it's
Total
so
freak,
fun
yeah.
to,
And
up
I had to
until-
be told, like, so when I was an adult and getting into country music in my, 20s, early 20s, I remember my dad said something about Buck Owens, and I was like, we watched Hee-Haw and that guy that,
Right,
like,
sure.
chased cartoon
That's the
pigs
one.
around? Or
Yes,
something, and he was like, you don't understand, dude, this guy was
He
the
was
real
holding out for a
thing.
The
paycheck.
real
Yeah,
thing. Yeah.
The image you have of him is not correct. Like, he was his own dude.
Syndication made him hang on for a couple more years.
Exactly.
He held on to.
So those
He
guys,
was a very smart man, business
Yeah.
wise. He was.
those three, it's tough because Merle Haggard, as a songwriter, is someone that I adore.
Oh yeah, and a chord player too.
He's a great player. He's a great songwriter. He was the first guy when we opened up for him in Greensboro. In '98, I'd always
Wow.
used a set list, right?
Wow.
He was the first guy I ever saw not use a set list, which, if you think about it, is every crowd's different.
Right.
So to
Yeah.
him,
Gotta
it
play
was
up the
like,
crowd.
this band knows 100 songs, and I'm going to call them out based on how this crowd
Well,
is
that's what
reacting.
I saw an interview with
Okay.
old Red Volkart, and he kind of said the same
was
thing.
playing
that
for him
You just had to,
when we
you
played
had
with
to
him.
know
Yeah.
everything, basically.
So, but as a singer, George Jones, man,
man.
like
I think he's top of my list.
he's so there's a bunch of other people like Lefty Frizzell and whatever who I really adore. But then I've kind of done the writers, but the singers would be George and
Which I hear a little bit in you sometimes.
I definitely and the other guy that my father, he loved that outlaw country stuff, but he was not like, he had Don Gibson, he had Jim Reeves records. But
I love the Jim Reeves.
there's great stuff, right?
God.
But in the early '70s, the king of the charts, in my memory at least, was Charlie Pride.
Oh God,
Oh.
yes.
So that
Hell
voice
yes.
to
He's
me
top-notch.
is like a really big deal.
Yeah, it's hard done it between Charlie and
Yeah.
George, don't it? It really does,
Yeah.
because I tell you, Charlie, I mean, even his later stuff was just
There's
fantastic.
something about his voice
There's
that's
something
like,
about it.
it's just the most appealing
There's just
thing you've
something
ever
about-
heard. You
you
know what I
know,
mean? It's just like you.
I imagine that if you met Charlie Pride, I got to meet and play with Hubert Summon several times.
Oh, wow.
Hal Wolf's
That's
guitar
like,
player.
that is, that's awesome.
And he was one of the most kindest, gentlest.
Wow.
I mean, he you talk about people that are famous that make you feel like you're the star.
Yeah.
You know.
It was secure in himself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just an old country guy at heart. And I can't help but think that's what
Country
Charlie
boy.
Pride was like.
Well, let me tell you,
Was just a fucking
Totally.
down to earth guy.
I went to see him, and it was late. I'd never seen him, but I drove. My sister is a professor in Conway, so I drove to South Carolina because he was playing the Alabama Theater in Myrtle Beach. This was probably 2011. And so I went down there, and it was packed. And at the end of the show, like, I'd never seen him. He started shaking hands with the audience, man, and I mean, like, 65, 70-year-old men were just, jumping over. It was like the
Like
Beatles or
fanboys,
something. Yeah,
yeah.
totally. And when I saw them do it, I went to hell with it, man. I'm gonna do it too.
Might get
So I
involved.
jumped
That's
down
all right.
there, and I was like, I shook his hand
You
and
might not be
everything.
a match for these 67-year-old guys.
Those guys were going off. So I went down there too and shook his hand. And
Some of those guys probably
nice.
fought wars listening to Charlie Pride.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. Yeah, yeah.
Terrell, I want you to come up with a good one for him after he plays another song.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Keep thinking about one. I'm gonna be thinking about one too. I'm gonna try to think about I'm gonna formulate some stuff. Let's conspire.
You know, in country music, there's like 5 different types, or maybe more. But there's like that Johnny Cash train beat.
Sure.
There's the honky tonk, shuffle.
Sure.
There's the kind of straight 70s slow ballad thing that I just did, and then you got that Waylon beat. And I wrote one with that beat. I wrote the chorus probably 5 years ago. It took me forever to write the verse, and what I eventually did was I played the chorus for a friend of mine, and he goes, well, it sounds kind of like a Roger Miller song. And so I thought, well, that's great, so now I'll write the verse pretending like I'm Roger Miller. What would he do? So that's exactly what I did.
I know. Listen, I had that
Finished
problem
the
just
song.
recently.
Yeah, is that right?
With the chorus, I had a chorus, but I had no idea. And isn't that like really being lost?
Yes.
That's like really being.
You're ready to just
see.
let it go.
You have a
like,
chorus,
yeah.
and you just have to let it go and just let it find you. You really do, because I mean, if you're trying, once again, it's bullshit.
That's the thing. So, so eventually I got it. So,
And actually, all of that goes into my question. I'll wait for you to play.
All
so
right.
it's called.
It's meant to be.
Yeah.
Everything's just flowing.
Look at
right.
Morty, man. He is awesome.
He is
man. Look at that. He is so awesome.
Ready to
now.
rip my head off when I came in.
Y'all don't know
Lovey-dovey.
that Morty does try to attack the guests before they have, every guest has to go through Morty's
He
approval,
looks
which
great, man. Look at him.
it takes about 10 minutes, but once he gets to the
always he's dreaming.
yeah, he's dreaming.
So yeah, that's you doing the pause.
Sweet little rascal.
He's a baby.
All right, so
Sometimes.
it's called Ghost in My Room. There's a ghost in my room where there used to be a lover. I let our love like the others to its doom. Too much take, too little give. No way nothing here could live. And I might as well be sleeping in a tomb. Sleeping with a ghost here in my room. There were times when I thought you and I might settle down. There were times when I thought you liked having me around. And I don't know how all that loving just turned into hate. But you left me in this haunted house and left me to my fate. There's a ghost in my room where there used to be a lover. I let our love like the others to its doom. And too much take, too little give. No way nothing here could live. And I might as well be sleeping in a tomb. Sleeping with a ghost here in my room. There used to be the man who thought you'd never go away. But looks like I was wrong, learned something new here every day. I guess I killed the happiness that used to fill these walls. Now I think I'm going crazy. Hear your footsteps down the hall. There's a ghost in my room where there used to be a lover. I let our love like the others to its doom. Too much take, too little give, and no way nothing here could live. And I might as well be sleeping in a tomb. Sleeping with a ghost, that's the thing I fear the most. Sleeping with a ghost here in my room. Do-do-do-do, dong, oh yeah.
Wackadoo, 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 wackadoo.
Tom.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Goddamn,
you.
John, that's some fantastic songwriting, man.
Thank you.
That is, man.
Thanks.
You know, that's
I appreciate it a
when
lot.
folks come over here. I'm always like honed in on their shit. And that's some good shit.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Terrell, what you got?
So yeah, so speaking of songwriting, you have to forgive if I'm a little excited because normally if I'm around musicians, I'm either watching them from a pit,
Yeah.
and they're up on stage and then accessible,
Or from a
I'm
camera.
working, or I'm working around them. So you
Yeah.
know, when things wrap up, typically people part ways. So
Sure.
when you're writing your music, do you have themes that you try and stick to, like love, or love lost, or do you have different things that you try to approach when you're writing your music?
I'm not really good at writing about political things. I got kind of pissed off when Pat McCrory was elected governor because I knew about his personal history and it did not jive with my own beliefs, and so I wrote a song about that. But generally speaking, it's about relationships.
Okay.
And it's not that I'm trying to do that. I've tried to also do that kind of Bruce Springsteen, Tom Waits thing where you're writing like about characters, and I've never been able to do that particularly either. So I figure at this point,
which is kind of how I write. I write from like a character, like about characters to some degree.
That's
It's
really
funny how we
cool.
all,
Yeah.
you know, it's.
Yeah.
That's a great question, man.
It is a great question.
It is a great question.
And so a follow-up.
Sure.
Yeah.
So when you were talking earlier about how you're struggling to write a verse, do you typically start with the music or start with lyrics, or just kind of a mixture of the two?
What usually happens is either someone says a phrase like my partner's dad, we went to visit him in Virginia, and he said something, and I was like, "Oh, that's a song!" And so, like, I had to like make an excuse and leave, and
I know
like
somebody
sing
else
into the
does
phone
that.
and stuff. And I
Right.
heard it.
Excuse me, I've got to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
real quick.
Totally. But like songwriting is just so weird. Like the band I have now, John Howie Jr. and the Rosewood Bluff, we made a record, and we were about to make our second one in 2012, and like Matt, I lost my drummer, and it was very sudden. He was 42 years old. He'd been playing drums for me for 10 years.
Jeez.
It was really,
that's tough.
it's still rough, and
it never gets better.
and-
It'll
and-
never get
yeah,
better. It
but
won't.
so what happened was all of a sudden, like I realized we made the next record with a different drummer, but all those songs had already been written, and I realized I was writing all these songs. I ended up making a solo record because I was writing all these songs that weren't for drums, because I didn't know how to write songs and think about a drummer other than him playing them. So like
You
my
couldn't picture
Because even your own drumming history,
Right.
he set your tone.
Yeah. So when it wasn't even conscious, it was like it was just subconsciously my brain just was writing these sad solo acoustic songs, and I was like, holy cow, like this is crazy, like. And once I gave into it and thought, well, I'm just going to make a solo record, then the songs came pouring out. I had been dry for like a year.
Yeah.
And then finally I was like, well, don't ignore these songs. There's a reason this is happening.
Yeah, there you gotta. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so the songwriting thing is just weird.
And that's all right.
Yeah. Like I guess if it wasn't this kind of magical weird thing, then it wouldn't be special.
I think when the songwriter thinks it's weird like that, I think the music is more true to your. If that makes any sense.
I think you're
both
dead
of
on.
you-
I think you're dead on that,
as
Terrell. I think it is. I think when it's more, I mean, and I think especially when and I think that goes into like something that helps me as I've grown as a songwriter is stepping outside of my comfort zone. And what you said just then, that's gonna come through. Because it's new to you. So however you approach it, however it affects you, whatever, it's gonna come through in the music. I think that's dead on, man. Hit us with another one. I'm gonna ask my question because I know you got probably a good response for it, a good story at least for it.
I think I'm gonna do the one of the songs from that solo record I put out a few years ago. If that's all right. The record's called Not Tonight, and this song is called Not Tonight. Would you look at me? I'm staring at the walls again. I'm flying solo and clean. I won't make no mean calls again. Might lose my head tomorrow when peace is out of sight, but not tonight. No, no, no. straighten out my heart and mind. I can drink away tomorrow and start some useless fight, but not tonight. No, 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 not tonight. The only thing I wanna hold is my best guitar. Anything else takes me too far gone, and it's all gone too far. So you can head on home when you get done. I won't be there. Ain't gonna call you names, I'll take all the blame. I think that's only fair. I might fall in love tomorrow with the early morning light, but not tonight. No, 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 not tonight. No, 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 not tonight.
Nice song, man. Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
That's right there.
Thanks.
We've all felt that before. So.
What is the wildest thing that's ever happened to you out here at a gig? You know, I'm sure they don't happen like they used to. I'm sure, but early on in your career, I'm sure something happened. 'Cause I used to have some crazy. Maybe it was just
Yeah.
the location I was.
No,
in.
it was always.
But it was always some kind of crazy, like life and death kind of situation.
To be honest with
you.
you, and this was not long ago. In 2017, I got roofied
Oh,
Oh my
in
God.
Birmingham, Alabama.
Are you kidding?
Well, were we talking about Alabama earlier?
Right.
Anyway, sorry.
Roofies, not the most favorite place.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was at I guess the drinking hours there are kind of fluid, shall we say?
Wow.
So
Right.
we
Fluid
went on
situation.
really
What's the
late,
catch?
and you know, yeah,
We're back to that.
Right. We went on really late, and then people. By the time we went on, there had been like 3 bands. You know, it was that deal, right? It was a 4-band bill, and everybody was just blotto.
Yeah.
And
You just sit around and wait for so damn long.
Sure.
And you just, what do you do? And it's
and hey,
hey,
sweetheart.
what's going on?
And so yeah, so I got roofied, and I have no memory of the night. I woke up the next day, and people were like, "Yeah, you walked out in the yard in your underwear, et cetera, you know."
So somebody just slipped something in your drink or something?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a weird scene.
Sheesh.
So that's probably that. I would say that takes the cake. Now we did play a show once in Raleigh, and Artemis Pyle from Leonard Skinner was there. That was kind of crazy. And he was a wild man. Like, he was dancing
wild man.
with women, and yeah, he was
Yeah.
going crazy.
Yeah.
He came to a gig of me and Austin.
Is that right? Okay.
Nadine was there that night, happened to be.
It was years ago.
And we had a tip bucket set up with our CDs and a price for the CDs. He bought one of the CDs.
Oh, cool. All right. Okay, yeah, that works. That's cool. Good man.
You know?
Listen, they had a little bitty stage in the place.
Yeah, it was just a little tiny
He had a
place.
200-piece drum set on it, and Austin and Matt stood on like a 3x3 together.
Right.
Because he wouldn't move his drum set. He
What is
played
it?
there like one night a week on Tuesdays or something. Yeah, we had a Artemis Pyle
He
running.
seems like
once.
kind of a freak. How could you not be, though? I mean,
Well, there's
After
that.
that.
That's right.
given that story.
After that.
What a
you
good
know,
time.
What are you going to do? Well, John, any kind of what is the website folks can find you?
So right now my website is down. I'm trying to rebuild it. The host company Vibe went under, so I'm trying to rebuild it using Squarespace, and as you can imagine, that's taking me some time. Yeah, but I've got the Instagram, and
yeah,
I've
and
got
so what your
the
handle there is
John Howie Jr.
Right.
And I've got
You don't like Johnny Howie Jr. on Instagram?
You
That's a problem for you?
Morty. Hey bud.
Wow.
So we got that. Facebook is John Howie Jr. in the Rosewood Bluff.
Right.
I'm on Twitter. I do that occasionally, John Howie Jr. And we're on like all the bands in town and song kits.
And your last record came out, what, about a year ago?
No, it's through. Let's see. It'll be 3 in September. I've been working on one with these others like Ghosts in My
maybe that's
Room.
what I'm thinking.
By the pandemic, we were like 7 songs in, basic tracks, and then pedal steel, electric guitar, and I was about to do vocals and acoustic guitar when the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
So I'm struggling to get it done. I was hoping to have it out this year, and I just don't think that's going to.
Yeah, the pandemic seems to have helped some people thrive and has stymied some people from being
It
able
just
to thrive.
just depends on the situation.
Yep,
Yeah, it's also
fluid
situational.
situation.
Fluid situation.
Yeah, it's very fluid.
Showboat's disgruntled.
So nobody wants to be, stuck in a studio when they're afraid of catching COVID or whatever.
Come
The
here,
least of which is Showboat. He's very upset apparently about your new recordings. Yeah, he's upset. He's
What's the
stretching.
word, buddy?
He's
Stretch
very
out.
disgruntled.
Yeah, I
He's
hear you.
disgruntled. He's very disgruntled.
I understand. Me too.
Well,
Yeah.
folks, I hope y'all weren't disgruntled about this episode because I feel like it's one of the best ones we've had. Up there with the top ones. John Howie Jr., you got to check him out if you like the old school country honky tonk. Maybe if you like your songs just a little bit updated with some other influences thrown in there. Terrell Brown, it's always a pleasure having
Pleasure to
you
be
either
here.
behind the camera or on a video shoot or whatever. This guy is if you ever do something that requires like oversight, this guy
I
is
do
your
plenty of things. So.
This guy's your huckleberry.
And I'm not good at it.
I'll be a
He'll dot your I's and cross your T's.
Yeah.
For you. I've never
I
worked
could-
with someone so
I could use
observant
that.
to detail. But
Well,
thank you for
I
coming
appreciate it.
and
Good to be
taking
here.
your time and being here again. I love having you as a
Thank
co-host. You
thank
always
for
got
having me back.
good
It's a pleasure
questions
to meet you,
and
John.
You too. Absolutely.
good presence. Y'all come back next week.
All right.
Till next time, don't be fooled by imitators. Fear the originators. It's the Friday Night Game. Dynamite.
Dynamite.